Alright, this tutorial is going to introduce you to Adobe Animate, and this is assuming that you have some background knowledge of Illustrator. So when you open up Animate, it's going to look like this, AN, and it's going to have this little window pop up. And we're just going to select the HD 1280 by 720 option and hit Create. And this is what we see. Yours might look a little bit different. So just like Illustrator and Photoshop, these windows can pop up differently. And if in the top right, you'll see there's this drop-down menu that says Animator, Classic, Debug, Designer, Developer Essentials. These are just different formats that you can use. So if we selected Animator, this is kind of what it looks like. And in the future, I think we might switch to this format. But for now, to keep it simple and like a little bit less cluttered, we're not getting into scenes, we're not getting into a lot of the stuff yet. Go ahead and just use the Essentials drop-down, okay? In the future, though, if you're wanting to use a lot of those other things, we can switch over to another format. For now, Essentials. So let's talk about what we see here. This white space is called our stage. If we click on our stage, you'll see that in the Properties menu, it's telling you what your document is. It's untitled right now. But if it had a name, it would be there. It's telling you, some more details about what type of file it is, the FPS, which is the frames per second. And that means that each second there's 30 frames. So you can see down here is our timeline. And this 1 means it's the first frame. But you'll see that at the 30th frame, it shows 1S, meaning 1 second. So our animation would need to have 30 frames just to be 1 second long. Now you can change that to 10 frames per second if you would like. And then here it automatically adjusts that after 10 frames you'll see 1 second, 20 frames you'll see 2 seconds, and so on. Alright, and it shows us the size is 1280 by 720. Here we are. If we click on our stage and we do Command minus, we can zoom out a little bit. And this dark gray space is just our work area. It's like off stage, imagine. So if you had a character over here, they could be off stage and then walk on stage and then again exit stage. So that's kind of how that works. The only thing that'll be actually visible once you export your movie, however, is whatever is on the white stage. So we'll go ahead and Command plus to go back. You can also toggle that right here. This is the zoom up here. So that is that. Next step. We have one layer here, and what we're going to do in this layer is we're going to insert or import by going File, Import, Import to Stage, and you're going to find this bouncing ball action JPEG. So go ahead and do File, Import, and find that picture. Once it imports, it's probably going to look something like this. It's going to be pretty huge and not very great for our purposes. So we're going to have to resize it. So using your selection tool, which is a V is the shortcut on your keyboard, go ahead and click on your JPEG and you can kind of move it around a little bit. And then you can also click on the stage and you'll see how your properties menu changes to show you the stage settings versus the properties of your JPEG. And so the properties of our JPEG, we could change the scale of this by using our free transform tool. So if I click the free transform tool, which the shortcut for that is Q, I can click and drag this down, but remember you want to press and hold Shift to keep it the right scale. Pressing and holding, but that can take some time. So the other shortcut that you could do is on our properties menu, you could also just change this. That if we know our document is 1280, oops, my bad, what did I just do there? I lost my picture. Anyway, let me do it again. Import to stage. A little click happy here today. There we go. Set replace. I hit it somehow. Okay. How I could change this is I could go to my size. Right here is, right now it's 2802. I can change it to 1280. Hit OK. And there we go. Now it's a more appropriate size. So anyway, those are two ways you can adjust your size. I'm going to go to Fit and Window. So right now I have this layer I'm going to go ahead and double click my layer and change it to my reference image. And I'll give you a moment just to get to this point. Alright, so now you should have your bouncing ball action image kind of in the stage, filled from left to right, and it's going to look like this. On this layer, what we're going to want to do is have this image last for 17 frames, because you can see that there's 17 different little objects here that we're going to have to animate. So you're going to go ahead and go to your 17th frame. So here's the 15th frame. So 16, 17. And you're going to do Control click or right click and hit Insert Keyframe. And a keyframe is basically the mother image, I guess. So this keyframe, if I just inserted another keyframe, it's going to just kind of copy and paste the information from this first keyframe into 17. So it's just extending it. Now if I scrub my animation going from left to right, you can see that my animation is just going to be 17 frames of this image. All right. So we're going to use this as a reference. So what I want you to do is just go ahead and lock this layer, because we don't want to end up moving it at all. We want it to stay stationary. So right here's the lock. Just click on that so that you have a lock. And now you'll see that if you try to move it, it's not going to let you move anything, even with your free transform tool. Next up, we're going to add a new layer. And this new layer we're going to create is going to be our actual animation. It's going to be the ball that's moving. So hit New Layer. You can double click it, and then you can title it, ball or animation or whatever it is you want to do. So when I did that, it automatically created this sort of blank keyframes. I know there's nothing here because if I hide my other image or my other layer, there's nothing. It's just a white stage. Even if I drag across all of these other frames, there's nothing there. So what I'm going to do in this first frame, I'm going to reveal my image again, is I want to try and draw that first circle. So in this first frame, make sure you're selected in your first frame. You're going to go over to your oval tool. You can hit O on your keyboard. And then here's our properties palette. And I want you to make sure there's no stroke. So under stroke, just select that little box right there that has the X through it. And then on your fill, you can pick any color you want. So I'm going to pick some sort of red color. But we want it to be a little see-through so that we can see the image behind it. So for your fill color, what I want you to do is under alpha, yours will probably start by saying 100. And 100 means that it's completely opaque. You cannot see through it at all. We're going to actually change it to 80, which is going to add a little element of transparency, okay? So make sure you have no stroke. You have your alpha, which is under in the color palette area, set to 80. Select your color. And we're going to draw our first shape. There, you made a shape. Something that I want to talk about here, though, is right underneath your stroke and fill, there's this thing that says Object Drawing Mode On. Okay? And then if you hover over it, it kind of tells you what that means. Intersecting shapes will not merge. So what that means is that I could draw in this first frame, let's say I wanted to draw a ball here and I want to draw another ball underneath it. And then I wanted to have one overlapping them. Right now, if I go to my selection tool and I try to move them around, they're all independent shapes. If I was trying to draw and I didn't have this object drawing mode on, so let's say I clicked that and I had it off, then what that means is now intersecting shapes will merge, which can be good if you want them to merge. So let's say I click and drag a circle and I drag another one, and then I try to move them independently. Oh no, they're all together, which if you wanted them to merge is great, but if you wanted them to be separate, that's pretty frustrating. So just keep that in mind. If you're trying to draw something and all of your stuff's getting stuck together, it's probably because your drawing mode was in the incorrect way. It was off. So we're going to make sure that our drawing mode is on, even though for this animation it doesn't really matter, okay? But I just want to make you aware of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and put my circle right there, If you want to change the size, you can't use the selection tool. The selection tool only moves it. If you want to rotate it or change the size, you're going to have to use the free transform tool, which is Q on your keyboard. And you can change the size that way. One other note, because you might end up having this issue and then wonder what the heck is going on. Let's say that you're on your selection tool and you wanted to move your circle around, and instead of moving your circle around, something like this happens. Okay? Why that's happening is, let's say you move your circle, have it here. If you click, if it's selected, this won't happen. So if it's, oops, what did I just do? If it's selected, oh lordy, I just undo, okay. If it's selected, it's just going to move. But let's say that you're clicked off of it, and then I'm going to slowly hover towards it with my selection tool. Boop. Oh, did you see that? Hold on. I'll go down here so you can see it. See the little half circle thing, arch right there, the little curved line next to my cursor? That means it's allowing you to tinker with the curve of that shape. Imagine that this circle is a vector image, because it basically is. And then you could change the curve of your shapes. That might be helpful in a moment. Anyway, for now, after covering all that, the drawing mode, and this fun little way to tweak your shapes, I'm going to just draw a circle that kind of fits number 1 as well as possible. Okay, now we need to move on to 2. So we need to make our second ball and actually the second frame. So we're going to click on the next frame. We're going to do Control, click, Insert, Blank Keyframe. Okay? Inserting a blank keyframe is what you want to select for this. You don't want to do frame. And if you, let me just show you real quick, I guess, if I remove this frame. If I do Insert, Keyframe. Oh, it's not, well, hold on. This is not, I have it all goofed up right now, but we'll get back to that in a later. Anyway, it's a blank keyframe. You know it's a blank keyframe because it's got a blank circle here. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and draw my next circle. So you can go ahead and do that. I'm going to hit Q on my keyboard because that's the shortcut for my free transform. Got that? Now I'm going to go to 3 and hit Control Insert Blank Keyframe. Oops, make sure I'm at 3. I already had a blank keyframe on it. I'm going to draw my oval, my circle. You can use your keyboard arrows to do fine adjustments to the movement. Go to 4. Draw your oval. And this is where we're going to have to use our free transform tool, which is Q on the keyboard, to rotate it. Get it to the right size. And this is also where I could use my V, my selection tool, and I could click off of it and then hover close and adjust those curves to fit that little squished sort of shape a little bit better. Alright, click on 5, Control click, Insert Keyframe. Okay, finally was able to do what I was wanting it to do. So I said Insert Keyframe, and what that did is it took the keyframe right before it, which was 4, and then basically copied and pasted it onto 5. So what I actually wanted to do there was insert a blank keyframe, because on 5, hold on, again I have to remove it now. I wanted a blank keyframe because I want to redraw this. I don't want the exact same thing. So that's kind of the difference here. A keyframe is going to take the previous keyframe and paste it in, whereas a blank keyframe is going to have a blank window for you to draw a new shape. All right, we're going to go to 6, insert a blank keyframe, and draw in our oval. There. Okay. So let's say we want to see what this is looking like right now. See what our animation's looking like. You can preview it by right here is the play button, so you can hit play and let's go to number 1 and then hit play. I actually want to loop because I want to see what it looks like over and over. So click loop and then hit, and it's going to show you the loop right now. So we're going to hit return, or you can hit the play button. So that's what it's going to look like right now. You can adjust the loop by clicking and dragging it all the way up to the 17th keyframe. So if I hit return, but of course, because we don't have anything after that. Okay. You'll notice that the reason why that 6 ball is showing the whole time is because these frames are actually extended. When I created a new layer, it automatically extended that up. But, you know, it doesn't really matter. We're going to just start, we're going to add new ones as we go. So we're going to go to our 7th. So we have 5, 6. This is our 7th one. I'm going to delete that then. And I'm just going to keep going. I'll let you keep going on your own. There is one thing I wanted to show you. Let's say you draw a circle, and if you've been encountering this issue where you're wanting to change the size, like I'll show you here for 8. Let's say I wanted to drag it up, but see how it pulls the top down too? Right now what's happening is this white circle is where it's adjusting. It's adjusting the size based off that white circle. So let's say you want to make it shorter. It doesn't know that you want to make it shorter from the top. So what you could do is press and hold the Option key or Alt key and then drag, and that's going to lock it on the opposite end. So that might make this a little bit easier. And same here, I'm going to press and hold the Option key, and now it's going to let me adjust sideways where the other side is locked. Otherwise, it's going to pull in from both sides when I change the size. So that might be helpful for you if you've been struggling with that. Alright, so I've done all 17 of these. I can preview what it looks like by hitting the play button. And it's just going to loop it because I had already clicked my loop and selected 17 frames for the loop. And that looks pretty cool. What I can do to see if it looks good without the image behind it is go to this other layer and hide it. And now we're going to go ahead and hit return or play. Yeah, it's a cute little ball bounce in there. Alright, so we ended up getting some motion. If you want to play around with what it looks like, let's change it back to when it was originally 30 frames per second. Let's see what it looks like if I hit return. Whoa, it's really fast. Okay. And let's change it to something more like 6 frames per second and see what that looks like. Okay, so just a different look. I, at some point along my animation, gained a stroke on my shapes. So I must have been a little click happy and ended up getting a small, I don't know if you can tell, there's a small stroke on that first one compared to the first one. So I would have to go back in and tinker with those and change those strokes so I don't end up having that issue of having it not be continuous. So anyway, I'm going to bring back that back layer. So this is what I want you to do today. Try to make a nice continuous bouncing ball action. When you're done, go ahead and actually delete this reference image. Well, you can't, you know what, never mind. Don't delete it. Leave it alone for now. And I just want you to do File and Save As, and then just type your name and bouncing ball. So FLA is just basically a Flash document because that's what we're working in. This used to be Adobe Flash, but now they renamed it to Adobe Animate. So FLA is Flash document. Go ahead and save it that way. The reason I said not to delete this bottom layer is I would like to be able to reference kind of how closely you were able to get your shapes to fit the ones behind it. Okay? For your own purposes, just for fun, if you want to save it without this bottom layer, you'd have to delete it, and then you can save it with just the ball animation for yourself. If you wanted to export it as a GIF, you could do that by going to File, Export as an animated GIF, or GIF, depending on your feelings about all that. And then here, it gives you how many colors do you want it to have, all that stuff. So I haven't dug deeply into this yet, to be perfectly honest with you, but I think it should be fairly straightforward. So that's that. Thank you for following along.